The Law School Admission Council just added a field to the official LSAT score report called the Writing Ability Score. And it's blank right now, and there's nothing in there, but it is there now. And that should scare you just a little bit, because LSAC does not add fields to the score report for no reason. That field is there because they expect a number to go in it. And once you understand why, your LSAT timeline might need to change. I've been teaching the LSAT for over 20 years. I've watched LSAC signal changes before, and what they're signaling right now is not subtle. And nobody's talking about it, but I'm going to. Over a year ago, LSAC stated publicly on their website that LSAC writing would remain unscored in the short term, but that they are analyzing the writing for validity and reliability with a long-term goal of providing a scored writing assessment for admissions. Now, if you don't work in testing, that might sound like bureaucratic nothing. But validity and reliability are the two things a testing organization must prove before they can defensively score anything. They don't spend years studying those factors unless they're building toward a scored section. And look at what they've done since then. They've renamed the section. It's not called LSAT writing anymore. It's called LSAT argumentative writing. They redesigned the prompt. The old version was simple. You pick side or side B and you're done. But now you get multiple perspectives. 15 minutes to plan, 35 minutes to build an actual argument. They integrated writing into the test logistics. You literally cannot get your LSAT score released unless you have an approved writing sample on file. And now there is a placeholder on the score report for the score itself. Now, each one of those steps by itself individually means nothing, but all of them together is a roadmap that they're building towards something. And so the big question is, of course, when does this happen? Now, LSAC doesn't rush. They might be the most conservative testing organization in the country. But they also don't build roadmaps unless they intend to follow them. Now, new LSAT testing years begin each July, and so my prediction is they're going to start scoring the writing sample in July of 2027. So you've got about a year and change. Now, the version of the LSAT you take right now, no logic games, writing unscored, only 2 types of sections instead of 3, that is actually the simplest the LSAT has been in decades. Unfortunately, no, nothing good lasts forever, and there is an expiration date on this version of the test. Now, here is why I think this is happening now and not 5 years ago. It's because of artificial intelligence. Right now, admissions is reading personal statements that they know were probably written by ChatGPT or at least heavily rewritten by it. That also goes the same for addenda, YX school essays, diversity and adversity statements. And so there's nothing they can do about that, unfortunately. The horse has left the barn. So admissions is asking one very simple question. Does your writing ability under pressure match the writing in the rest of your file? The LSAT writing sample is the only place they can answer that. The browser is locked down. They've got proctoring software installed. Your webcam is on, your screen is recorded, you can't switch tabs, can't copy paste from elsewhere. And so think about that. In an application full of writing that anybody could have helped with, this is the one sample where they know it's actually you. And because every single test taker gets the same format under the same conditions, it's easy for them to compare. And that gives law schools something they don't have anywhere else in the application. It's a credibility check, verification of your true ability. Now, of course, I do want to manage expectations here. A scored writing sample is not going to become another LSAT arms race. It will not be the thing that makes or breaks your application, but it will be a filter for consistency. Let's say you are a non-native English speaker. Your personal statement sounds polished and fluent, it's beautiful, it's amazing, but your proctored writing sample sounds like a completely different person. That gap is going to raise some questions. And those are not questions you want admissions to be asking. And it works the other way around too. If your writing sample is clearly strong and clearly written by you, it validates everything else in your file. Now, here is one distinction that matters. LSAC decides whether writing is scored, but law schools decide how much it actually matters. And at first, they're probably going to use it cautiously, just for context, just for one more data point. But context from a proctored and verified source is way more trustworthy than a polished personal statement that nobody can verify. Now, there's this question of whether you can actually score writing fairly at all, because the last major testing organization that tried this completely blew it. The College Board added a scored essay to the SAT in 2005. You had 2 separate graders, 3 different categories. Sounds reasonable. But it turned out the single strongest predictor of your score was just how long your essay was. Pretty easy to game that. You write more, you do better. How many words you could put on the page was the best predictor of how high you could score. Then 16 years later, the College Board killed it entirely because the rubric they used for scoring never measured what it was supposed to measure. So that's the cautionary tale, that's the precedent there, and LSAC has watched every minute of it. But here's what's different. They killed off the SAT essay back in 2021 before ChatGPT, before AI chatbots even existed, and the SAT essay died because colleges didn't want it, they didn't find it useful. But a scored LSAT essay might survive because law schools actually need it and they're pushing for it. And of course, they're not looking for Shakespearean prose here. They're looking for something much more specific. Can you take a position? Can you support it logically? Can you acknowledge the other side? Can you communicate clearly under time pressure? That's what lawyers do. In contrast, the SAT essay was asking you to analyze somebody else's argument. You weren't actually building anything. LSAT argumentative writing is the opposite. You are constructing your own case from scratch, and the rubric has to reflect that. Now, I would expect their rubric to evaluate argument construction, not just whether you have an opinion, but whether you can reason your way towards it. Now, how you handle the other side here matters as well. In legal reasoning, ignoring the best counter-argument will destroy your credibility. So I guarantee this rubric is going to reward engaging with opposition. Real engagement here, not a throwaway sentence. But here's what I think admissions will care about the most. Does it sound like a real person? Because they have spent years reading AI polished prose, every sentence perfect, but none of it human. Now, a proctored essay where someone is clearly thinking in real time, even if it's rougher or messier, that might be worth more than anything else in the file. They want the most real writing that is truly you. So here is your situation. Logic games are off the test for 1.5 years now. Writing is currently unscored, and so the LSAT is only testing you on 2 things right now: logical reasoning and reading comp. That is the fewest scored components this test has had in decades, maybe ever. Now, once scored writing arrives, likely coming in about a year, you're adding in something you can't cram for, because you can't build writing ability in a 6-week study plan. You've either developed that skill over years or you haven't. And even if LSAC rolls this out carefully, there will be hiccups. It's going to be messy. Transitions always are, right? Some students will over-prepare for the writing and neglect logical reasoning and reading comp, which are still worth far more. Others might ignore writing entirely and send in something sloppy. But you can avoid all of that by being done with the LSAT before it changes. Now, the part that should make you feel good is that law schools will not penalize you for which version of the LSAT you took. Same thing happened with logic games. Some people applied with an LSAT score that factored in logic games, some post-logic games being removed, and nobody cared. Your LSAT score is valid for 5 years under the rules that are currently in existence when you take the test. But don't rush it if you're not ready. If your scores are swinging all over the place, if you're still missing questions because you don't understand the arguments, if you're still building fundamentals, don't rush it. You've still got a year before any changes might go into effect. And the writing change does not outweigh a weak LSAT score, ever. A few points lower on the multiple choice will hurt you way more than avoiding the writing transition would save you. Now, moving up your timeline could make sense if your practice range is close to your goal, if you've got one area to refine and time to do it, and you can knock out the writing early enough that your score release isn't delayed, just take it. Sooner is smarter if you can get it done in time. But if not, you want to get your score right first. And if you're watching this a year from now, after scored writing is already live, you've got good news as well. If you can reason clearly under pressure, that's going to help you. Everybody's personal statements look pretty much the same now. Everybody's application reads like it was written by the same AI. But a proctored essay where you genuinely outperform, proctored under timed conditions, can't be faked, that's going to stand out. Scored writing is going to hurt the people who are leaning the most on AI to carry their applications, but it helps those who can actually do the work. And if that's you, that might be the best thing that ever happened to your chances. Now, LSAC has told us what's coming. They put the placeholder for it on the score report, and the easiest version of the LSAT you will ever see is the one that exists right now, but it's not going to last. Strike while the iron's hot.